Thanks so much, Michelle. We're just going to have a discussion about some first graders. Can we start though by talking about how, especially with K1 and 2, how did you identify or screen all of your students to identify those who are most at risk?
Well, 3 times a year we do a DIBELS assessment.
Okay.
And so to start in September, we do a benchmark of all students, and that gives us kind of a baseline.
Right. What are the skills in the beginning of first grade that you're sort of assessing on?
Letter naming fluency, sound fluency, phoneme segmentation, nonsense word fluency,
Okay.
writing.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of not super complicated to determine who's most at risk because it tells you.
It tells you.
Yeah.
It's pretty scripted.
So you pretty much just followed the recommendations
Correct.
within the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you have a collection of students in first grade, for example,
Mm-hmm.
who are deemed at risk.
Correct.
How do you then take a next step to identify why they're at risk, or said another way, what their most immediate area of need is, and where you're going to first start intervening?
So here, it's pretty explicit. If we go ahead and go through the booklet, it'll tell us the breakdown of where their breakdown is.
Right.
So you can tell here that this student is not to automaticity in letter naming fluency. So we know that that's going to be an indicator for this child.
Right. So one of the sort of advantages to this test, but if I'm hearing you right, one of the things that's important is to actually listen to the student.
Correct.
Right.
We recommend that all teachers do their own assessment
Got
and
it.
not that another.
You bring up another, I think, important point, and that is the way this assessment is sort of organized is that there's a hierarchy. There's a flow to these skills, right?
Correct.
So letter naming comes, letter sounds, then segmenting, then blending.
Correct.
So
And then fluency.
right.
Mhm.
So okay. So if they're making mistakes in all of those, if that happens, you're going to go to the most immediate area.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So in a way, if I can say it this way, diagnosing student needs doesn't have to be super complicated. It's just sort of logical.
It's simple.
All right. So you have 3 students here for us: Stephanie, Juan, and Sari.
Mm-hmm.
Can we're going to assume, because it's true, that these are all students at risk.
Correct.
Can we start with Stephanie and talk to us about what you and your team determined Stephanie's most immediate area of need was, what intervention you're providing, and then how it's working.
Well, here Stephanie shows a breakdown in nonsense word fluency, which tells us that she is not fluent or doesn't know the basic rules to phonetic rules.
Okay.
So that is where we started with her. So she then has been chosen to participate in school intervention 5 days a week for 30 minutes
Okay.
with emphasis in phonics.
Are there specific resources, programs, strategies that you're using for phonics, for simple phonics?
Well, in Stephanie's case, she's working through the program Read Naturally,
Okay,
and it's systematic phonics instruction,
got it.
30 minutes a day.
Okay,
And then once they're in the program, we do progress monitor every 2 weeks to
Okay.
ensure that.
and this booklet is the benchmark, the 3 times a year.
Correct.
And then this one, the one with the graph on the
Yep.
cover, that's okay.
This is progress monitoring. So this tells us that at this point in the year that she's still not on target
Right.
for literacy skills.
And not to dork it up, but this purple line,
Mm-hmm.
that's the aim line. That's
Correct.
That's what we're aiming for.
Correct.
And if I'm reading this right, Stephanie,
She's flatline.
she's flatline, so
Correct.
we want her trend line, the pencil line, to be above this.
Correct.
So what are some of the conversations you and the team are having around what to do next for Stephanie?
Well, Stephanie has been in one session of intervention, which is 6 weeks.
Uh-huh.
So she'll continue actually and go to the next round. And then we'll progress monitor and determine if this is the correct program for her or not.
Right, and
So we're sorry.
no, what we've found is, I totally follow why you chose phonics,
Mhm.
right? Because if I look at her scores here, her phonemic awareness, as measured by this phoneme segmentation test, it's great. She's doing
Correct.
good.
Correct.
So I think we all would have concluded that we need to focus on the next skill, which
Correct.
is phonics. But maybe if that isn't proving to be appropriate, maybe we do need to back up
Correct.
into phonemic awareness.
Correct. However, during with her progress monitoring, she still is showing proficiency at phonemic awareness.
Yeah, true. I'm
So-
noticing her writing,
Mhm.
which looks at least
It's
not.
phonetically
Yeah, it's
appropriate.
okay. It's phonetically appropriate,
Mhm.
which is also reinforces that phonemic awareness probably is pretty sound.
Correct.
Can we talk about Juan?
Yes.
Juan has a slightly different story, and I think he's getting
Correct.
different supports.
He is. So Juan is struggling at the letter level,
Wow. Yeah.
and so he's in a more intensive structure of 4 students.
Okay, so slightly smaller group size.
Correct. 5 days a week for 30 minutes. He's actually working with the special education teacher,
Excellent.
and they are working on letter naming, sounds, and high frequency words.
Right. So pre-phonics.
Correct.
Yeah, not yet doing blending of
Correct.
CVC
Not yet.
or VC, right?
Not yet, because if you look here, he is actually unable to blend.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. When you mentioned that he's receiving support from the special education teacher,
Mhm.
does he have an IEP?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
It's just the way that
Of course.
we function.
I love it.
We use all the supports we have.
And his writing is sort of reinforces that
Correct.
his phonics aren't where they ought to be.
Correct.
Yeah. Or excuse me, his
Phonemic awareness,
shouldn't
yes.
isn't where it needs to be.
Correct. This is copied.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, strategies, any specific resources, strategies, programs that he's using, or is it similar to Stephanie?
No, he's not in an actual scripted program. It is based on kinder standards.
Got it.
Mhm.
Excellent. So I've heard this before too, that if this first grader is behaving academically like a kindergartner, and that's where his skill needs lie, then we don't have to make it real complicated. Let's just
We
use
just
some of
use
our
kinder. Mhm.
resources.
Correct.
Fantastic. I've heard of other schools doing that
Yeah.
too. How about Sari? What's her
Mhm.
situation?
So she's actually making a little bit more progress than the other 2. She's also, in fact, in Read Naturally, but a level higher than this first child.
And Stephanie.
And you can tell here that phonemic awareness is strong, letter naming is strong,
Yeah, it
and
is.
she has a breakdown here with nonsense fluency, which just shows there's no automaticity yet.
Okay. So she's not in the same group as,
Correct.
as Stephanie is.
Mm-mm.
Okay. But still 5 days a week,
5 days, 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and still using that same resource. But like you
Correct.
said, she entered at a higher level because
Correct.
she's probably working on maybe slightly more complex phonics.
Yes.
Okay.
Blending. She's digraphs and
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. And not to belabor the point about the reading writing connection, but
It's pretty.
it's cool that you're bringing
Pretty
that evidence to the conversation,
Mhm.
because her writing is correspondingly higher
Correct.
than these other 2 students.
Correct.
All right. So, last question: how frequently are you having with your team conversations around the progress that students are making?
We have weekly collaboration for an hour,
Okay.
and it's based around student achievement.
Uh-huh.
So weekly for an hour at a minimum.
Okay.
And then I also meet with teachers as well
Right.
in teams.
Who, when you say weekly for an hour, who besides you are in those conversations?
Well, grade level teams, and they're led by different teachers.
Got it.
So we have 2 different leaders within a team
Got it.
that are responsible for different items,
So
as
in
well
the,
as the special education teachers and or support staffs.
so in the first grade, for the first grade team, which is what
Mhm.
we've been talking about, there are 2 first grade teachers who take the lead in a variety of focus areas.
Yes.
And one of those would be focused kind of on,
Instructional, and then the other would take care of more procedural grade chair types of items.
got it.
Mhm.
And then you do have special education teacher and other clinicians, as it makes
Correct.
sense, who can give their 2 cents on
Mhm.
things.
Yes,
All right, outstanding. Thank you, Michelle.
you're welcome. Let's wrap.